Welcome to edition 42 of Podcasters, today with Jiaqi Pan from Madrid. Welcome, Jiaqi.
Thanks, Doran. I'm glad to be here.
Please introduce yourself.
Sure. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Lanbot. Lanbot is a no-code chatbot platform that helps businesses to build communications automatically with their customers across website, WhatsApp, and Facebook Messenger.
And the reason I invited you, well, of course, you founded a chatbot platform, one of the many at the moment. But there was an article in which you said something about what's happening in WhatsApp, and
right.
Please elaborate on that and explain what you said in the article and your views on the developments of conversations happening from a business perspective in WhatsApp and Telegram and that kind of platforms.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, there's like a fundamental change in the market happening right now where there's a disconnection between how we as a consumer are communicating between us versus how businesses is communicating towards consumers, right? As a consumer, we are used to messaging platforms like WhatsApp, Telegram, and many others, where it's so convenient, right? And very easy to communicate with our friends, families, colleagues. But from the other side, businesses, they are still relying on emails, phone calls, right? Which are quite traditional channels that is no longer in favor for the consumers, right? This generates a lot of friction between, how business is communicating with customers and how customers is trying to, getting information from the business. And what we try basically to do is bridging that gap, right? To make sure businesses are where their customer are and bringing the level of convenience the customer needs.
Is that the reason why you started Lanbot, or was there another reason why you started Lanbot?
It is one of the main reasons, I would say, but also because of my background. As you can notice, I'm originally from China, okay?
WeChat, right?
Exactly. In the case of WeChat, it started way ahead, versus all the Western countries in terms of the messaging penetration and how businesses start relying on messaging channels to engage and start offering product and services to customers, right? One of the things I don't think is happening right now in the Western market is that because of the ChatGPT and many, generative AI solution coming out, they are reversing a little bit that trend in the sense of now Western countries, they are able to offer far superior, conversational experiences than what people have now in WeChat, which is a version of like in-app, or in-chat app experience that is not totally conversational.
Could you, maybe it's a good idea to elaborate a little bit on WeChat, because you said it was way ahead of Europe and basically the rest of the world. What happened in WeChat? Because the way I understand it and what I heard and read is that basically the Chinese do sort of everything in WeChat. Basically, it's the go-to place for whatever you want, whether it's shopping or travel or whatever. In WeChat, they do it, right?
Right. So WeChat
how
in
did
China.
That happen?
Yes, I can explain that. WeChat in China basically right now has become the internet browser, so to speak, for most people, right? Everything they do on their daily basis, like buying groceries or even paying the kind of the bills or the electricity of their house, they can do it on WeChat. And there's like such a integration between WeChat and the whole Chinese infrastructure, right? That makes it very convenient for a lot of people to use it. The thing with WeChat, I think, is on one hand, the lack of digital solutions that was, before in China, and a lot of, government and kind of public support to make WeChat be very useful for the overall, user base, and all that stuff makes user be, much more willing to use WeChat and adopting it for almost everything you can imagine. They are now paying, bills. They are making, any sort of task or ordering, or making purchases just on top of WeChat.
And is that only business to consumer or also business to business?
Yeah, there is like the business to business side as well. A lot of people basically are replacing emails with WeChat.
And then the $60 million question. Well, how about security, data security, privacy? Because that's still a hot thing in WhatsApp or Telegram or Signal, whatever. I imagine, and I'm not going to go into political discussions, but no, because that's not the point of this podcast. We try to understand and then get the best things out there. But how's that? Is that a serious point, or do people don't care? Because doing payments in WhatsApp sort of a thing.
Right. Yeah. I think we have to maybe treat security and privacy as two separate issues here, right? So I think it's very secure doing any sort of transaction on WeChat. Otherwise, with the level of transaction that is happening, basically the last estimate I have, it's like 1 trillion, Chinese
transactions.
Local currency. I'm not sure how to say it in English. Sorry. We call it renminbi. Okay. Chinese yuanes, right? That's kind of like the amount of, or the volume of, value that is being transacted in WeChat. So with that level of transaction, I imagine it should be very safe. Okay. The privacy part is questionable in the sense of in China, the policy is quite different, where the government has access to everything. That's how the Chinese government has made clear to all the internet and tech companies, like if you want to provide technology in China, you need to give back an access to the government so they can have control about everything, right? Therefore, probably you don't have too much privacy from the perspective of government and knowing anything about anyone.
Okay, so and that's why probably we haven't seen a copy of WeChat in Europe or in the Western world, because that's the main concern of everybody. And of course, there's legislation on that. So do you assume that parts of what's happening in WeChat will start happening in WhatsApp or Telegram or those platforms? Meaning we see the start of conversational commerce, a little bit here, a little bit there, and you see people are very careful because my opinion is they don't know how to integrate the channel in their current marketing or communication mix. But they need to start because that's where the customers are.
Yeah, and let me maybe try to first clarify on why WeChat was not successful in the Western world, and then I can talk about what will happen with the WeChat, WhatsApp, and Telegram in the Western market, right? I don't think it's because of the lack of privacy or that stuff. The reality of messaging platform is that they have like the network effect, where it tends to become like the winners take all dynamic. Once you have a dominant messaging platform in a market, it makes it very hard for the rest of the players to catch up, even if they offer superior features or offer a higher a functionality to the customers, right? So the reality is that when WeChat enters to the Western market, WhatsApp was already very, especially in Europe and maybe some LATAM and Southeast Asia and those kind of markets, WhatsApp was already the dominant player, right? And that makes it very hard for WeChat to overtake it. And then obviously some of the WeChat features and UX, UE might be too complex for people who is new to the whole messaging space. In fact, if you compare WhatsApp even towards Telegram, you can see that a lot of the features that WhatsApp has is lower or below what Telegram offers, but still WhatsApp is far superior in terms of like market dominance and user adoption, right?
That's
Um,
it's true, because every time WhatsApp goes down, and so people flock to Telegram, but the moment WhatsApp is back up, everybody's back.
Yeah, I think WhatsApp has such level of penetration already that right now it's almost like a zero sum for most of the messaging players. Like if they want to grow, they have to take market share from WhatsApp, or else there's no new users in the space, right? And you are right that when WhatsApp is down, the only alternative or the few alternatives, right, for people is either Telegram. I think Signals is also another one that is becoming quite popular, and the other platforms as well.
Yeah, we just saw that WhatsApp is introducing channels like Telegram or communities. So they're
Those are two things, but yes, they
yeah,
are
I know,
offering
but
community
they're
and channel, right?
correct. But that means Telegram and WhatsApp are going to be fully exchangeable by certain means.
Yes, yes.
Let me go back to the article I read, which drew my attention to you, in relation to your platform, because you built a. When did you start? When did you come on the market with Landbot?
We actually launched the first version in 2017.
Okay, so you've been around for a few years now. So you started Landbot, and then you realized at some point that, okay, we need to move to WhatsApp, etc. And then well, I saw this article where you talked about WhatsApp. What's happening currently in the market? Was that because you had such a lot of demand, or was that because you thought something needed to change? We need to move to like what WeChat is doing, and how are your customers currently using it?
Yeah, let me maybe try to briefly share a little bit our kind of original story, right?
Cool.
Which is very connected to all that stuff. When we first started, we actually connected first to WhatsApp, okay? But connected, quote unquote, okay, in a non-official way, because at that time, in 2017, WhatsApp still doesn't offer any official API. So we were basically hacking, right, the WhatsApp system to allow businesses to somewhat, using WhatsApp in a more scalable way. The problem of that system was that it's very unstable. Like anytime WhatsApp makes changes, it breaks our system and we lose messaging and things like that. And if our value proposition is helping business to communicate with their customers, and we are failing at the most fundamentals of communication, which is getting the information, right? Then we wouldn't have a stable value proposition or a stable product, which is why we eventually made the decision to go first on building conversational experience on the website, which is, like an open medium, and you don't have so many, limitations, and we can, try to build like a good bot or good conversational experience on top of web. And then once, because we have the faith also that eventually WhatsApp and other messaging channels, they will open up and therefore provide just an omni-channel experience, right? That's why we started migrating WhatsApp to web. And then maybe I think in 2019, I remember WhatsApp finally launched their API. At that time, it was still in kind of private beta, and we were among the few users to getting access to the beta stage, and was finally able to start connecting WhatsApp to our system and building a lot of stuff. And now fast forward to this point, right? What is happening right now in the market, right? For me, I think there are the convergence of a few things that is making the market now suddenly craving for chatbot, or businesses now demanding much more the bot solutions than before, right? I think the first thing is WhatsApp finally is becoming more open and providing some basic level infrastructures that before they were not able, right? The API obviously, but they also for a like very long time didn't allow businesses to use WhatsApp for promotional or like commercial type of use cases, which limits quite a lot, all the conversational commerce, type of interaction business can have, right? And it kills a lot of potential use cases. Now they're finally enabling that. They are finally also starting to test the payment part, not in all the countries, but they're starting in Singapore, in Brazil, and India. Those are some of the key countries, and I've been told that they want to eventually launch that by the end of the year to the rest of the countries. So that will close finally also the loop for the transaction happening within WhatsApp instead of asking customer go elsewhere and paying outside of what the WhatsApp ecosystem, right? That's on one hand, like the WhatsApp platform finally maturing and offering the right level of solutions so business can finally use it. But on the other side, we are seeing the breakthrough of the ChatGPT, right? Where natural language finally become a reliable interaction with the customer. Before, if you want to have a conversational experience in WhatsApp, you either rely on humans or you build like some sort of linear bot interactions that still feels very rigid and very kind of restrictive, right? And the customer experience obviously is not so great. But with ChatGPT, everybody have now finally experienced what is the potential of a good conversational experience, right? They can finally see, oh, I can actually talk in a normal way, to a computer, and it can understand me and it can give me useful information, right? So that is also making a lot of businesses realize, oh, there's so much potential here, and a lot of the low value and high cost human task right now can be automated with the new technology. And combining, I think, the right channel, right, the messaging platform with the power of generative AI is what making right now the chatbot space so hot.
And do you think ChatGPT is ready to be industrialized, basically, to be integrated in corporate businesses?
I'm not sure what you mean by industrialized, right? But if you are referring to whether ChatGPT can be used in high scale environment where there's like a lot of user interactions and there's a lot of sensitive information going through, I think it depends on the type of use cases, right? We are in my opinion, we can differentiate two type of use cases. First is what we call the co-pilot use cases. This is where basically the human is in control of the main kind of function or the main task, and the AI is there to complement and to assist the AI to give them any sort of complementary information. Okay, for those type of situation, I think right now it's fairly useful, and as human is still in control, it's mostly about augmenting human capabilities, right? On the other side, right, we have the autopilot type of use cases. This is where the system try to be in charge and will be the main responsible to interact with the end user, right? Giving information, sharing data and all that stuff. And the human is only on the back end monitoring those conversations and only jumping when necessary, right? So I think for autopilot use cases, depends quite a lot on when you want to apply it. You want for now only applying it for high tolerance or high failure rate cases where even it fails or it hallucinates, right, sharing wrong information, it's still fine, and therefore it wouldn't mean like huge risk for your business. Okay.
I'm not sure. I do agree and I don't agree. What I see
Right.
is that the risk of it spitting out something that doesn't make sense. I mean, a lot of people right now who use chatbots, consumers, are frustrated because the chatbot doesn't understand or gives the wrong answer or what have you. And the risk is they leave. So you need to have it basically get it right the first time. And if you allow ChatGPT or another LLM or generative AI model to generate hallucinative stuff, and the customer will be offended or move away and will go to the more expensive channel, and they're lost because they won't go back to the chatbot because they had a bad experience. So I think there's the risk that it spits out something you definitely don't want to spit out, and it could be a PR risk. So I'm not against using LLMs or generative AI models, but I would advise to use a small model, train it specifically on your data. It's more expensive, I understand, and more time consuming and more maintenance. However, you de-risk the situation, and eventually everything will get better. And also I saw this analysis. I don't know if you saw that most of the LLMs that are out there right now do not comply with the AI, European AI Act. So that's another challenge.
Especially if we want to operate in Europe. Yes.
Yeah, it's a thing. And although the law didn't pass yet the parliament, it is a thing. You better be ready. So I think there's several layers that you need to keep in mind in order to introduce that to your chatbot.
But
Do
I
you
think
have
that
it?
happens always with any technology, You know what I'm trying to say? The regulation side always will be like one step or few steps behind what the technology, will be capable of. And what I think what people should be aware is there is a risk, like what they are now doing, even though there's no regulation or there's no penalty of doing that. At some point, it could be limited, but that's, I think, the risk of doing business, right? You have to be willing to take that step, which gives you the edge versus maybe, your competitor who is afraid or who is not willing to be that fast, right? And I think right now, everybody in the AI space, they know that AI will be controlled in the hand of a few big players, like, Microsoft, Google, or Facebook, those type of big players. So the only advantage those smaller companies can have is being fast and finding, the right product market fit for their use case and for their solution, so they can eventually establish it themselves.
I think there's one other thing that the problem with ChatGPT or the OpenAI products. That's my dog. We have a chatbot dog. She responds. We talk. She responds. Those models are using too much electricity, too much clean water. They are not by any means green. And I think that will become a thing in deciding which model to use. And smaller models use less electricity, less clean water. So I think that is a thing. If you look ahead, where do you see the amount of customers that are currently using chatbots on their website moving to WhatsApp? What's happening in your customer base?
Yeah, I think it's not like choosing one over the other, but more like doing an omni-channel experience where, depending on where is the customer, you give them the conversational experience they need, right? And then when they are switching, then you follow them, right? In the sense of a lot of companies, they were still using the website as one of the main touch point with the customer, doing a lot of their kind of, marketing campaigns or those, typical customer acquisition funnels. But then they will rely on those messaging channels, right, to get back to those users, because users wouldn't be always on your website. So it gives them another touch point with those customers, right? And we have a lot of businesses, they are trying to complementing, right? They start using Lambot on the website, but then they start adding WhatsApp, then Facebook Messenger. We are also integrating with SMS and other channels. So eventually it makes it more and more easier to engage with the customers.
That is interesting. So how do you manage the difference between all the channels? Because we know on WhatsApp that you're limited into, for instance, the buttons you can use. So how do you manage that? You build a chatbot and you want to use the same chatbot across or omni-channel. How do you manage that? Or do you build different bots? And also the question behind that is, I know design-wise you have a few challenges, but also isn't, and it's suggestive, I realize this, but isn't the conversation on a website and what you would expect in WhatsApp a different experience? So the way you construct a conversation, my assumption and from my experience, that is a different conversation. So the same chatbot could have like a different appearance and a different structure based on the channel.
Yeah, absolutely. I think here we first need to understand what is, the type of customer you're engaging with, right? And then what is the main need those customers has when they are visiting either your website or, they're in WhatsApp. Then you try to build whatever is the content that will address the customer needs in the right way. So then, when they're interacting on websites or on WhatsApp, they get the appropriate experience, right? For example, when people using a bot on their website, it typically is on the initial stage of the funnel, right? So like a new potential customer just get to know the brand, and then what those customers want in the early stage is getting information from the business. So you need to be there having your bot ready to share some of those information in an easy to consume way. Whereas when we are talking about engaging the customer over WhatsApp, it might be already more, progress or more advanced down the funnel. So those customers need more, specific help. Like they need information about price. They might need, some sort of demo. They might need more information about your kind of product, all that stuff. Those are the information that you might need to provide down the funnel, and then building your bot according to that. So depending on what stage the customer is in and what type of, needs the customer has, you build and you design your conversational experience according to that. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same, right? You don't need to provide the same bot and building it for web and then for the WhatsApp. Probably it depends quite a lot on the use case you have. One thing is true is that from the WhatsApp side or from Meta, who is the main, a company that owns WhatsApp, they want to use WhatsApp like transversal across the whole journey. In fact, they started testing already like recently one thing they call the click to WhatsApp ads, which is like a type of ads that once people click on it, instead of going to a website, it opens up directly your WhatsApp account, and then people will start right away engaging with you inside of WhatsApp. Okay, so on the platform side, there are already a lot of dynamics, making like the design of the conversation becoming harder and more complex because you have to, adapt it to different cases.
I hear you talking, and I'm not. Of course, I'm thinking. I'm trying to envision this.
Right.
And I totally understand. And there's this other thing. If you're on a website, you're reasonably anonymous, right?
Right.
And I imagine you're asking for information, and a chatbot gives you that, and let's assume it's the right information. And the moment you the sentiment analysis sort of gives a vibe that okay, we're going towards a transaction. There's more interest than just information. That you sort of do a handover or a pushover from the chatbot on the website to WhatsApp to make it more personal. To get the data, you need to do a transaction or something transactional. Is that easy to do within your platform? That you go from, okay, you start in the website with the chatbot, then we do a handover within the platform. Basically, the conversation you had on the website, it moves with the conversation to WhatsApp. So like a seamless integration.
Yeah, it is quite easy to do. Although from the customer perspective, I think it's more about giving the user the options to do what it's more convenient for them rather than forcing them to go through your funnel. Just let me show you an example, right? Right, what we were saying before, the customer is on your website, right? And instead of you forcing them to go to your WhatsApp, you should give them the option, hey, do you have time and do you want to continue the conversation here? Maybe they want to just continue and finish in whatever process you have before they can buy your product. Then you just let them do that. But if they say, oh no, I'm in a rush and I need to go, which is fine, right? Then you can give them also a more legit, right, reason of why they should give you the contact information so they can continue the conversation without having to keep waiting on the website. So it's more about being customer driven and giving the customer the way they want to be engaging with the company, and then making use of the technology. You can be very flexible. You can have the conversation on the web, or you can hand off to WhatsApp. Whichever way, the platform definitely supports.
I couldn't agree more. But are your customers, the businesses, are they ready for this? Because it's although everybody says, yeah, we put the customer at the center of our operation and blah, 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 blah. In the end, why do customers need to complain? Because apparently they're not at the center of the operation. But do you see those companies moving to this kind of approach with chatbots and introducing WhatsApp as a channel? You see that happening, and also the handovers, or is that sort of too difficult for them right now?
Yeah, I think we might need to again separate what is kind of mental readiness versus the skill set they need to have, or the resource they have to make it
You
happen.
need both, right?
Right, exactly. One thing is they first want to have that, right? And then the other is they can make it happen. I think from the first perspective, most business we are talking to, our customers, they realize already that need. So they are very willing to make it happen, right? I think the challenge comes how to make it happen in a seamless way, right? That doesn't revolve like having a lot of, developers, or having a lot of engineers working on it, because probably if you put a lot of technical resource on that, everything is possible. But from the business perspective, how cost, effective is that? This is not so sure anymore, right? So I think with the technology, with large language models, what it's also enabling now from the business side is it's making bot building also much easier, right? In fact, one of the solutions we are offering right now is what we call the text to bot experience. Basically, a brand can just describe to our system what is the kind of chatbot they want to build, right? And our system automatically lay out the foundation for them, right? So then they can just say, go there and fixing some minor copies and changing text or adding images, whatever, right? Which, makes it like from 0 to 1, like much easier, right? And then from 1 to 100, that's the part where I think human still might be involved to properly design the experience and adapt it to their own case.
And it's great that you have that. So it makes their life easier. And what kind of use cases are they using that for? Is it just giving information or service? And do you also allow them then to train the bot on their specific data, if it has to answer questions about information on the website or?
Yeah, I mean, one of the main use case, so there are two use cases, two dominant use case, right? And then there are a lot of, I would say, secondary or like very specific use cases, right? So I will be mostly focusing on the two, which is kind of quite straightforward for many people. The first one is what we call the lead management use case. It's mostly about helping the business to capture and nurture and qualify potential leads when they first get into contact with the business across different channels, right? This is where we think the bot plays such a excellent role, because it can provide relevant information to the users, answer those questions, and then getting user information at the same time, so the business know whether those users are truly ready to be sold, or we might need to leave them and making it for like nurturing programs, so on and so forth. The other side is the customer service part, right? All those customers who have some sort of specific problems, they want to come, right? Instead of having, your support agent or support team, doing all the setup, you can have easily, the bot doing it, especially for companies that have, a good level of digital, infrastructure and a lot of digital systems. A lot of the things in reality, what human agent does is just go to your back office or go to your system, check the data, and go back and share that information with the customer. Those type of stuff right now can be very easily automated with, like a relative. You don't even need, a large language models for that. You can just, build a very straightforward linear bot to retrieve the information and then sharing it right away to the customer, right? So those are like the two main dominant use case. Then we have seen people building like escape rooms or like choose your own adventure style games. So there's a lot of funny stuff out there, and people can be very creative when it comes to building the bots.
If we talk about the second use case, that sounds like a process bot, sort of transactional, where you basically connect to a backend or something, and you pick up data, check it, and change it. It's like an administrative process. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, so then basically you you won't replace, but you take away work from the customer service agent, that it can easily be done by a computer, and the customer service agent can actually do the hard and the complex stuff, which is harder to automate or doesn't happen so often. It doesn't pay to
Exactly.
automate it.
Yes.
Or the customer doesn't want a chatbot to handle that specific problem. I can imagine there will be problems that you don't want to be handled by a chatbot. If you then look at your platform, because when we prepared this, I said that the amount of platforms that is, they're like mushrooms, they're everywhere. It's no,
like CRMs, right? There
yeah,
are
and we
millions of
know that.
CRMs out there, right?
Yeah, there's too many, and every platform is shouting they're the best, and they have the most integrations, and it's all low code, et cetera, et cetera. I do believe all of it. Um, but I'm trying to figure out. It's very hard, even if you are experienced, to figure out what is a good platform and what is the definition of a good platform, because all platforms, they develop so fast, and of course some just fast forward, they look at other platforms, say, oh, we can do this better. And my worry is it's going to be so, how do you say that? Let me rephrase it. There's so many good platforms out there with a lot of potential, and I'm afraid that there's other platforms that shout really hard and loud, because they have deep pockets, but they're not necessarily better for the customer, better for the company, the businesses, or the final customer.
Right.
And how do we sort of get these big corporations to understand that choosing a big name not necessarily means they get what they need, or they get their future needs met? I know there's a couple of big platforms that shout really loud, but if you start working with them, then you're limited in what you can do. But hey, you chose the biggest platform, or a big platform, so it should be okay. It should be safe. Should have all the functionality, and a safe choice at this day and age is not necessarily innovative and a good choice. So what do you see happening? Customers choose you. Why do you choose you over other platforms and forget price? Because there's so many different pricing models around. But if we look at functionality and safety, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think this is where the product-led growth trend is really helping, especially for, I think, businesses that are more, betting on kind of the strengths of the product versus being the loudest and having the deepest pocket in the, in the space, right? I think right now the buyer and seller dynamic has reversed, where buyer has all the power, right? It's no longer like, hey, seller are selling you something and you are forced to buy it because you don't have other options. Probably, when seller comes to you, you have already seen like dozens or even more, alternatives, right? And what will move you to make the decision is no longer what the seller tells you, right? But more what you have experienced yourself, right? And a lot of the best of the class SaaS solutions, not only in the chatbot space, I'm referring to like all software space. They provide this simple to test and quick to value solutions. So it makes the product speaking for itself, right? And then once the buyer see, oh, I can easily test it itself, and I don't need to pay some consultant or some like very expensive technical people to setting everything up, and I can see this can work, then they will make the decision to use whatever solution they feel the best, right? Once they make the decision, I think the consulting part and the expert part still is valuable, is on the implementation side, right? You need to know what tool to use, but you also need to know how to use it properly, right? Because otherwise, even with the best, like solution in the market, you wouldn't able to get, it to be useful for you, right? So I think that's where the expertise from the consultant, from the expert, comes into place.
It's like having you can have a Red Bull Formula One racing car, but if you don't have Max driving it, you're not going to win.
No, exactly.
That's your point. It can be a great car, but if the driver sucks, then you're not going to win the race.
Yes, exactly. Or
the
not
team
even
around
with
it.
the driver is sucks, right? If the driver is good, but he's driving to the wrong direction, right?
Same thing, or the team that changes the tires, if they're really slow, he also loses. So it's the whole thing. It's
Right.
interesting. Yeah, but it's good that you bring it up, because one of the big problems in the decision making process, my opinion, based on my experience, is that a company decides, okay, let's do a chatbot. Then, of course, they allocate budget to it. So the initial investment is covered. But then the problem starts, because it doesn't stop at an initial investment. Of course, for the platform, you have recurring costs, you have usage, et cetera, and then maintenance. You need a team around the bot, and you need it integrated into your normal organization. And that's where the consultants come in, to help you not only implement the chatbot itself, to have it land properly in the organization, because that's another thing. If you start off right and then the people leave and nobody is responsible or feels responsible for the maintenance of the bot, then a great experience in the beginning ends up to be a lousy experience after a year or after 2 years. And then the original use case and business case sort of dies because nobody wants to use the chatbot anymore.
Right. I think this is so critical for any adoption of software solutions, but especially in the case of chatbots, because it has so many touch points with the customers. So it's no like one specific team in the company building the chatbot and that's it, right? It has like implication with marketing. It has implication with sales, maybe support, maybe like quality assurance. Whatever team is involved, in the customer journey, probably they need to be coordinated properly to make sure like whenever the bot is transferring customers from the bot to the human part, they are properly receiving that and they can coordinating it, right? So a lot of change management is necessary. So not only we are automating things, but we are also making humans adapting to those automations and be efficient with that.
And then if you look at your customers and the experience you have, which department, which manager should be responsible for managing the team or managing the chatbot, or have ownership, whatever we want to call it? Because there needs to be one owner who coordinates, has the budget, et cetera, et cetera. And what do you see in practice? You have your own opinion, and I would like to know.
Right.
But what is actually happening in organizations, customers of yours, or what you see in the market?
Right. So my opinion, obviously, in the ideal world, this should be the role of the CEO, right? Of the kind of highest rank of responsibility within the organization, because customer responsibility touches so many points. Only the CEO can have the proper coordination with the different team and making sure they are accountable to make the right type of changes. But in reality, what tend to happen, right, is that sometimes the CEOs delegate that work to the marketing leader or to the sales leader, to whoever is more interested in adopting the technology, right? And then they build some sort of silo function because only that team is truly bought into using the bots, but they don't have the support from the others. And that can itself also limit the impact of the bot, right? It's about, I think, changing your way of how to serve to the customer, because the standard way of acquiring customers and offering your customer solutions has already is already obsolete. So we need to make sure that the whole organization realize that and adopt those new buyer behaviors, or adapt to the new buyer behaviors, and then using the right type of technology to make it happen.
That's interesting. If I take it one level higher,
Mhm.
then my summary of what you're saying is that
Right.
the a decision to start using a chatbot, and with all the automation behind it and all the teams around it or in it, should be a strategic decision with a place at the board level table, being discussed, because it's cross or omni-channel, being discussed with all the functions. That is one side, and I agree. And there's a lack of that, although I hear more and more there is sponsorship in the board. So one of the board members feels ownership or takes ownership, which is important. Could be from a silo, but eventually it is at the table in some shape or form. That's one part. The other part, in order to start with a chatbot, in my opinion, it's usually needs to start in a silo somewhere in order to get started. Because if you build it across all the functions, we know one thing, that doesn't work either. To start.
I think what people need to realize is, one thing is to have an alignment on what is, the strategy, and the other is the actual implementation. You can perfectly having the alignment of, okay, we want to do this, and that's the vision we have, and those are, the different changes that need to happen. But then the actual first step, right? Let's focus on this area, but then the other areas are already aware, and they will be supportive when those things are impacting their area. For example, when marketing suddenly start using chatbots, right, and the chatbot is taking away some of the leads that is reaching to sales team, and the sales team is not aware of that, they might suddenly be blaming marketing. Hey, why are we getting less leads? Who is handling those leads? Are we getting less leads because we are spending less, or what's happening, right? That's the thing we need to make sure right in the beginning people are already bought into the vision, and they know, like, when the strategy is fully play out, eventually it will be better for everyone, and not suddenly kind of questioning all the kind of challenges down the line. Because for sure when you start testing it, there are adjustment to the different areas that you need to assume that you will have.
So what I hear is there needs to be, what I think, not here, based on what I just heard, I think there, and I've talked about this before,
Right.
there needs to be some sort of education, and education is maybe the wrong word, but training for C-level executives to understand, on the one hand, the opportunities and the strategic possibilities you have once you start implementing this type of technology. I wouldn't say the sky is the limit, but hey, we can get a long way up to the sky. But at the same time, they also have to understand that the magic doesn't happen within a year or 3 months or even 2 years. It takes time to get there because people expect if they're spending a lot of money to get to the first POC, um, that's where magic happens. And usually the POC, if it's successful, then you have sort of the first numbers to prove how successful it can be. You can extrapolate that on the other departments. And then usually they see the value and then everybody wants it. And then the new game is to prioritize and not be tempted to do everything at the same time because that doesn't work. But I think there needs to be some sort of, I don't know, it doesn't have to be formal training, but it's not a consultancy because you want the ownership in the board and the knowledge to be there. And then a consultant can't help doing that because he can't sit at the table the whole time. So I don't know what the solution is, but something needs to be figured out.
I mean, that's the what I call the change management, right? So before applying any new technology within the organization, they need to already be aware what is, the implication, the pros and cons of the technology, right? And a lot of times what happens is that people blame the bad result or the lack of results for the wrong execution instead of for the bad strategy instead of the wrong execution. Meaning, like maybe the strategy of going to offer conversational experience and automating your customer journey, right, is the right one. The direction is the right one. But the people who is executing that and who is implementing it did not do the proper job. But then, if you don't get the bot in right in the beginning, and people on the other areas suddenly say, "Hey, this obviously doesn't work," and why would people want to talk a chatbot? People want to have human interaction. All those type of typical, objections that you hear because they don't, truly bought into the vision, right? That's why sometimes you need to make sure people are aligned right out of the gate, and then they understand that challenges might come into play. But if you have early indicators to say, hey, like customers are interacting more with the chatbot versus whatever emails we're sending before, customers are responding us with more information, we're getting people more engaged than before, those are the indication that that path really can play out well. We just need to make sure then all the rest of the touch point is well set so we can bring a consistent experience, right?
So basically, you're saying that decisions should be made based on actual and actionable data, right?
That's
So
always, but what I'm more
I know,
referring
but
to is like the people sometimes they don't know what data to analyze, right?
no, no,
And then
I
suddenly
understand,
they
but
go out of the wrong data.
that's why I gave the nuance of actionable data. It's not
Right.
just data; it's data you can actually use for the decision. And what you see is typically on management level, they have no idea which data they could use, and the people in the operation doing the first bot experiences, they forget to collect the data that can be used to prove the case, because that's not their first priority. First priority is to get the bot out there and have customers, real customers, use it and get this experience back, which is
Right.
extremely important.
Mhm.
But to make the case to the board to say, okay, we need to move on with this and go bigger, better, you need actionable data. That was the point I was trying to
Right.
make, and based on what you said, and does your platform or the other platforms? I've seen some platforms that properly generate data. Does your platform do that? Do you guys have that built in?
Yes, I think data is quite important, although you need to know what type of data you want to look at, right? When people talk about data, most of the time they're thinking about some sort of quantitative KPI stuff, which is relevant, right? Although I think in the early stage, it's even more important the qualitative side, meaning like you need to have someone actually checking conversation by conversation to see, hey, what type of question people are making to the bots, and when they respond back, what is the reaction of those type of customers? Those are the type of nuances, right, that you need to have like a first-hand experience. And once you know that, you know whether it's working or not, and you will have also a better indication of how to improve it. Imagine that the bot is answering people and a lot of people are finishing it. And if you just look at the finish rate, right, start from finish rate, you might think, oh, the bot is working excellent. But maybe the customer is just saying fast, 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 or human, 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 because they're so bored to talk to the bot. They don't want to, like keep engaging with it, right? So I think that side is the very first part where people need to be aware. Once you got that, the next step is you need to determine what is your goal. What is the kind of main, step in the kind of bot flow that you need customer to reach. Once you reach that point, right, that means it's already a successful conversation. For example, in the marketing environment, it's very easy. Once you have people giving you their contact information, that already shows you the bot has successfully convinced customers and it generated the level of interest, right? If it's for support and success use cases, probably you would need to launch some sort of NPS afterwards in getting people's satisfaction scores to know, oh, how is that experience with the bot making you feel, or has that successfully solved your issues or not, right? You can also check what is the level of human takeover, right? How many times the bot successfully handle the conversation versus having to involve a human in the end.
Can I add two things to this?
Absolutely.
Net promoter score as an indicator for behind a chatbot, that in my opinion doesn't work. I do believe in customer effort score. How difficult was it to get shit done? And there's this other thing. It's very old school. You're gonna laugh at me, but if
Okay.
we can, we do that. We
Mm-hmm.
actually call the customers in a very early stage. Call every customer that went through the chatbot. Whether yeah, but it's if a lot of companies like, but we're introducing automation. It's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we want to hear from the actual customer what they liked, but especially what they
Mm-hmm.
didn't like, because
Mm-hmm.
that's where we need to pivot. And if it's one, okay, we know nothing. But if 10 customers sort of have the same experience and the same critique, as we would say, then you know where to pivot and when to pivot, of course, to make it better. And in my opinion, that is the way to step by step take out the pain points and create a flawless customer experience. And then you end up, when you look at it, you end up looking at
Mm-hmm.
it and saying, wow, this is so different from what we assumed. Because
Right.
you can have a hypothesis. I haven't seen one case where the hypothesis was completely right. There was always
Yes.
nuances we could have never known. And even in theory, you can philosophize, you will not find these nuances. It's the customer just has the answer. And I think that's what this is all about,
Well,
right?
I would say the customer has the answer to what is the problem, and then you need to provide the right level solution. That's just good product management, right? So I always think building a bot, right, or automating conversations is kind of a building product. So you need to apply all those product management, processes to that, like understanding what is, the problem you are trying to solve for the customer, providing the right type of a solution to them, and then asking the customer whether this is what really helps them, right? So I don't think this is like a bad or old school practice. This is absolutely necessary.
I'm happy you say that. I thought it was
Mhm.
my age,
No, no, no. I mean,
but
calling people probably for some young people they don't like it so much, but it is necessary when it's done well, and it gives you the level of insight for you to make the right decision.
I think, by the way, it's very, very, very good advice to look at a chatbot as a product. But
Mhm.
because that also means if you look at it that way and not just a communication channel, what happens is you're going to look at it differently from a board C-level perspective, but
Right.
also performance and monitoring perspective. And everybody finds it logical that if you have a product, you do maintenance on it. That's why you have product managers. So in this case, you could have like a product owner.
Right.
Yeah, I think that you see a lot of that happening, but you're the first one that actually said
Hmm.
view
Hmm.
it as a product, treat it as a product, and apply all the rules for product management to it. That's
Yeah.
a perspective I haven't heard yet, but I think it's a good perspective.
And I think a lot of the problem businesses have when they are building the bot is that they treat it as like one time and done thing, right? Like they build, dedicate a lot of time and a lot of resources to build what they believe is an amazing experience right out the gate. But then they leaving it in the dust and no one, check it afterwards, right? That doesn't work. Probably it's much better you define whatever is the minimal viable version, right, of the bot. We call it the minimal viable bot, MVB, right? And then once that bot is out there, you start checking the conversation bot is having. You start asking, those customers, how was the experience? All that stuff that allows you to, getting back to the bot and iterate it. So there's like a consistent iteration to make the bot better. One challenge I think right now people has with LLMs to do this stuff. So in the past with linear bots, this can be somewhat easily done. The thing is people don't do it, but it can be somewhat easily done, right? But the problem now with LLMs is that as large language models, they are non-deterministic systems. Doing tests, iterating the system, not always gives you a better result. That's the problem because it's such a black box. When you change, whatever input you feed into the system, into the AI, you don't know if the next time when the customer interact with it, it's getting a better response. It can be even worse, right? That's why I always miss like in the in the landscape or in the ecosystem some sort of system that allows you to evaluate the prompt or all the large language model infrastructures you have in place to see whether the improvement is making things better.
Well, the good news is there are products coming to the market that actually help you doing that. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's important that we all start using that in the interest of our customers. Um, yeah, having said that, you have something, an AI-driven
Hmm.
bot that we can test, right?
I have conversational experience we can test, and I
Yes.
think it's AI driven. Okay, but let's test it because
I assumed it was
I think
AI-driven.
the main requirement was it should be something new that
Yep.
neither of us have tried it out. So I only have heard things about it, and I assume it should be built with large language models. But let's test it together and see what it actually looks like.
Sure.
Okay, so let me then share my screen. Then we can um, walk through it together. Okay. So, and just to explain what the product is, okay, this is ChatBot, the AI chat system from HubSpot, okay, that the HubSpot founder Dharmesh has built himself, and he released it a few months ago. A little bit of also the history. Apparently, like 4 or 5 years ago, HubSpot tried to do something like that, but with the more traditional natural language processing technologies back then, it didn't work, right? But with the ChatGPT and the new large language models, that is now available in the market, he thinks now suddenly all the experience he wanted to build will be possible. I haven't, as I mentioned, used it, so it's like the first time I logged into the system. Actually haven't used it, so let's walk through it together. Okay. If you want to make any comment, feel free to make it.
Go try something.
Right. Perfect. So I'm here. apparently I'm seeing on the left side, there's some sort of prompt template. You have different options that you can do. And then there's also some kind of, I guess, ideas you can try it out, right? Let's try block generator. I guess that's a quite easy one, right? Okay, so draft a blog post about what would you say,
Yeah,
Laura?
about how to educate C-level executives about choosing and implementing or strategizing the use of a chatbot or conversational AI.
That's a quite long title, by the way. Okay, so how to
You
educate
can make it shorter.
C-levels implementing chatbot for their business. Okay, to make it easier. Okay, I have clicked send prompt. Now let's see what it gives us. And if it's not working, by the way, it's not using Lambot, so I have no responsibility for that.
That's okay. We're not using Landbot. You're not supposed to test your own products.
It's okay. It's okay. Just joking here. Perfect. So it gives us this, like educating C-level and implementing. That's the topic, right? And it gives us this quite, I would say, well-structured, right, blog post, which is the main, goal. How would you further interact with it? What's your comment on the interaction so far?
This makes actually these are the things we discussed.
Mhm.
If you look at the content, this is what we talked about. So either was listening um, or we know what we're doing. Yeah, this makes perfect sense. I mean, language-wise, it's you read it's written by an AI, but I think if you would adjust a few things, it's not a bad story. It makes sense.
Right.
I don't know if you agree, but
Yeah, I think probably we'll have to go through the entire post, but just kind of scanning it through, it apparently, gives most of the points that you need, and that seems like a good blog post, right?
now I'm interested. It says that on the left in the menu, discover companies, competitors,
Let's
right?
test it out
I would
for
be
sure.
interested. So, who are the
Competitor
competitors of
to
Landbot?
company.
To Landbot, use your own.
All right. I'm not sure if I can just put Lambot. Let's try to put it a little bit harder. I'm not sure if just putting Lambot.io, you should be interpreting that. Oh, wow. It is. Okay. Found these competitors to Lambot. Okay. There's the
It's funny.
Typeform.
Typeform is there. I wouldn't consider Typeform a competitor.
They actually have a chat solution as well. I'm not sure if you know that. They
Uh,
they
I
they have a
haven't seen
chat.
it.
And a lot of the use case I mentioned before on the lead management side. Some businesses still today use forms for that. So Typeform is actually a good. So I would say it did a good job apparently here with the Typeform.
Yeah.
ManyChat is great as well because they touch a lot of the messaging channel sites. They have integration with Facebook Messenger, with WhatsApp as well. So that's a really good one.
If you go, can you scroll up a little bit?
Scroll up, yes.
It says even employees founded, location.
The
Oh, wow.
the options that gives you, right? Yes, it says the employees, when it's founded, the location. Well, that's even the address, which is quite
Wow.
interesting. The action, like research or add to HubSpot. Let's click on research. I want to know what it gives me more. Oh, okay. So it gives me the entire profile of the information that it has on Typeform. Okay. Description, sub industry, the sector, employees, founding year, tag used. Hey, this is interesting, eh? So it tracks the technology they are using.
It's
Go for it,
interesting.
think great.
Maybe you should turn this around. Say, okay, we have Typeform, who are their competitors. See if Landbot would come up, and then see if they get the use of your tech and all the information about your company right.
Let me try it. So we can
Cool.
type now Typeform, right? If we just say Typeform, let's see if it can detect it, okay? Not the domain. We just say Typeform. Competitor to Typeform. Oh, you got it. It's interesting. It's quite flexible, I would say.
You see, he takes form companies now instead of chatbot companies.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's a different perspective. So maybe you should try not Typeform, but ManyChat or one of the other ones.
That's a good suggestion. Let me try ManyChat. I guess here it should be appearing. Otherwise, it wouldn't be doing a good job. Oh, it's not. Maybe they think Lambot is too small for them.
You can scroll down, more results.
More results I'm seeing. Okay, haptic, Korea, core AI, more. Nope, they're not putting Lambot here. That's
At the
curious.
bottom, there's more results. You can go
Do you
for
want
more.
another try? Wait,
Yeah, at the
sorry.
bottom, it says more results.
Yeah, I'm clicking on that.
So we can ask it, can you compare? It says type a message, right?
Right.
We're
Yes.
using an LLM. So the question should be, can you compare Landbot.io with the other ones?
Just say Lambot and see what it comes up with. Can you compare Lambot versus ManyChat? Let's say that, okay?
Yeah.
It's not doing the direct comparison, I see.
But maybe it's in more results.
Not the right way of
So
using it, right? You can
we
see
do
that.
it differently. Hold on, we ask it differently. Can you give me a comparison of all the chatbot platforms in Spain or in Europe?
Let's say in Europe.
A chatbot platform, I would make it.
Sorry.
Otherwise, you get all the chatbots in Europe.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't have access. Okay. Dialog flow. I think he's giving, and ManyChat is not even in Europe. They are from the States. So I guess that's one of the limitation. Like if you are not, following the main purpose of the prompt, it is not giving you like a good responses. Okay.
That's a bit annoying because you can't get the right information out. Well,
Yeah,
you get a lot of information.
maybe it's not so actionable for you. You are right.
And the question arises, how do we know this is right?
You don't. That's the problem. If I think that's the problem overall, and not only for this product. Okay, like how to verify, the information that the system is giving you. How do you make sure that ChatGPT is giving you the right information? Right now, you don't, right? Or unless you do a lot of research yourself. Let's see maybe other type of use cases that might be interesting. Pay per click. Hey, that sounds interesting. Pay per click competitors. I want to know who is competing on Lambot. Let's see. Hopefully not too much people. Get through. leads gorilla, prop wire, rev chat. And can you see what is the, let me ask, what is the keyword they have in common, right? What is the keyword in common with getsru.com? Oh, sorry, it's getsru. It's not getru.
Almost.
But I guess it might not be able to do that neither. Oh, no. Okay. That it did well. Okay. So sales recruiting university. Telemarketers need it.
I don't think this is actionable information, to be honest.
No. And I'm not even sure if we are betting on those keywords neither.
Maybe you should use company research general. So let's see if it gathers the right information about Landbot.
Let's see. But that it's maybe similar to what we saw before, no?
We don't know.
I mean, with the typeform use case, yeah, that's what I imagined, right? It gives you the information. Let me see if it's more or less true.
72 employees? You have 72 employees?
70-ish, yes, that's more or less right. The location is right. LinkedIn, right. Tech used. Stop.
I see you're in I see you're in Barcelona. I made a mistake. I said Madrid.
Oh yeah, we have people in Barcelona though, and I go
Okay.
from time to time to Barcelona as well. So
Sort of right. Two location.
yes, exactly. Ah, that's interesting. Huh? The tech use site, I found it quite interesting, which is one of the main way how we use, in our own sales funnel to determine whether like someone is a good fit with our solution.
But they're right about the tech.
Some of it they are wrong. Like we don't use SAP CRM, so that's already wrong. And we don't use WordPress. We use Webflow, so that's also wrong.
For
But
your website, you mean?
yeah, for our website, exactly. But other than that, seems like okay. Let me see what prospecting tools it gives me.
Yeah,
Right?
I'd be curious.
Find companies in a location based on. Find companies of a given size and a certain technology. This is what I might just need. Let me say greater than 50, greater than 50 and less than 1000. Okay? No? Right? Is that the way how I should be using this? Why it's asking 50 number of employees?
It's sort of confusing
Right.
because it asks for, or maybe that's two ways of searching. If it can't use one, it uses the other.
Maybe I just use greater than
Yeah,
and
greater
50,
than 50.
right? And now I see it. Okay.
Uh,
And let's say Salesforce. Can I use multiple?
I don't know. Try it.
Miracle? Hopefully we don't break it. I like how they're doing the animation on the chat icon.
But I don't understand why it disappears after that on the previous bubble.
It disappears? No, it
Well,
still
here it is.
stays there.
Their answer.
Yeah,
Sorry, that's you.
yes, exactly. Mhm. And I would imagine if I put my avatar somewhere, should be allowing me to put my avatar, it would then show up, right?
Doesn't understand.
I imagine it shouldn't be that powerful. Let's say only Salesforce. I guess that's like too wide range, right? Yeah, I mean, 160,000 companies. That's crazy.
So maybe you should ask in Spain.
Can I?
I don't know. Try.
Use
You could say, please filter this for this list for Spain. Just Spanish.
paste filter the list for, although just kind of a clarification, we do serve customers, all around the world.
I know, but this is for the sake of the discussion.
Yes. No, I guess it didn't took in the context of the previous list, because here it says like 500,000 companies. So it's not taking into account the kind of previous command. You know what I mean?
It just downloaded the Chamber of Commerce of Spain, probably, or it made stuff up. That could also be the case.
Yeah. That's, I think,
And I see a
something
lot
that,
of.
sorry,
Sorry, I
go
see a
ahead.
lot of international offices. So it's the local office of Amazon or Typeform or whatever, but the main office wouldn't be in Spain.
Exactly. I mean, that's not accurate, right? They are searching all the company that have some sort of office in Spain. And one thing I wanted to make comment is that the context remember thing is very critical, I think, in conversational experience. Otherwise, it will happen what we are seeing here, right? Like when we are, just continuing the conversation, but it's not kind of remembering the context of the previous session. It gives me something that is useless for now. So I guess
It's a bit of a ChatGPT problem because it doesn't remember.
not really. It's not a ChatGPT problem. It's how they instruct the system, because ChatGPT can remember things, right?
I know.
As long as you feed to all the information to it, it will consume you more tokens. Probably
That might
that's
be the
one of the
point here, but they might have made it token efficient.
exactly.
That's what the point I was trying to make. It's a cheaper way of using it.
Yes, that's probably one of the main reason why they are not making it context aware. But then I guess from the user perspective, it also then lacks a little bit the experience needed. No, what do you think?
I agree.
Like, what do you prefer? Better user experience or more expensive, infrastructure cost?
I would go for user experience and a little bit less functionality.
Less
And
functionality in what sense?
and the
Like,
function to start with, there's now a lot of basically prompts.
okay, that
Make it a few or make it really, really good and let me go in depth and get all the value out. Because now if you export all this to HubSpot, you basically dilute the good data you might already have with very bad data,
exactly
the
very
useless
true.
data,
Yes.
and you don't even know if it's true. So I would focus on getting really good actionable data, make it useful and true. I don't know how, but make it true and make sure that if you integrate it in HubSpot or any other CRM,
Yeah.
it's actionable. Basically, what we said before: if you create
Yes.
data, create actionable data, and make sure it's right.
Yes.
And I think that's a risk here because we have no idea and no way of what we can check, but it's too much work. Let's try one more.
What would you do now?
Did you scroll down?
I'm already. Oh no, sorry.
That's interesting. News, company
News,
research, news. Yeah.
research, news. Right. Okay. Look at
Yeah.
recent company news.
Let's see what came out of CXCM if they introduced new features.
XCM, right?
Yeah, space between it. I don't know.
Sorry. That
Yeah, let's see
Okay.
what they come up with.
Recent news
Find the
for
right
CX.
company.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's maybe too complicated because so try just CM.
CM?
Yeah,
Okay. Let me try.
again.
No? Then?
Let's see what's happening.
Ooh, it's failing here.
Okay, so let's try
What is
another.
the real name? Or
I
what
don't
is
know.
the domain? crm.com?
Let me check. CM.com. So you should have
Okay.
found it.
Let's see if, yes, cm.com does have info. I think it's for some of those more common names, right? They might need the full domain. Okay, it gives you when it's published and who it published. Okay.
Now it becomes interesting. You see that they had a sort of a time gap in posting information. If you go to the right,
What do you mean
it's
time gap?
interesting. No, if you see 2 days ago, 6 days ago, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, and then 3 months ago. So there was 2 months of silence.
Oh, I see.
For a big company, silence is not very normal. You know, if you're working.
It's like a problem of how they crawl the information, and maybe there were information missing. It could be what you're saying. I don't know.
I don't know either, but based on the assumption that, let's say this is right, you
Yes.
say, okay, this would be interesting for a public PR company. Like, okay, apparently they don't have the capacity or capability or the smart stuff to bring out there. They don't have apparently a constant stream of information
Yeah.
going to the market. I'm not saying they are.
If you are noticing here, a lot of the publishing channel are from their YouTube channels. Like here, a lot of the channels are from their own YouTube channels.
So try something called try Podcasters, just for the sake of it. I have no idea what.
Try it. So recent news for podcast,
Podcasters, the podcast we're in.
right? Is that
Yeah.
how it's spelled?
Yeah, and then let's see if it picks it up from YouTube because it's a channel.
Okay.
Okay, then podcasters.nl.
.nl. Okay. Right?
Because it's happening on YouTube and Spotify and LinkedIn. It's not happening on the website.
I'm sensing I might also know why it's happening, because there's like a line breaker, and their system doesn't recognize line. No. Sorry. I
It's okay.
mistake it.
Try landbot.io, see if it figures it out.
Maybe it only tracks news for big company. Just joking.
The interesting thing is podcast. It's a brand. It's not a company. It's in itself. So it's funny because that might be a reason they can't find it.
But you have your website, and your website is
There's a website,
available, right?
We have our channel.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So I guess there's more. What? That's definitely not true. I mean,
so here we are. We figure it out. You just broke it because it has delusional information.
or
But
it's
someone could
missing
have
the
reposted
information
it.
somewhere, right?
It's missing information you put out there, and it's putting information out there that you didn't put out.
Yes. I guess it's because of the sources they're tracking. If they are only tracking YouTube, probably yes, we might not be so active on YouTube, right? But that's interesting. Let me click on one and see what happens.
But if it's tracking YouTube, it should have found podcasters because we have a channel there, and
that's also true. Like if it's
they didn't find
tracking
anything,
LinkedIn,
which doesn't make sense. Yeah.
So
You
again,
know,
we can say that this feature is not very useful, right?
well, basically we run into the point we keep on making. There is huge risks involved with these models, and the design is good. It looks like it's real, and it's very convincing. That's the whole problem with all the generative AI. But apparently it's not correct, and stuff it should find, it can't find. We know it's out there. We're actually making it right now. They won't know. But here we're proving that information about your company is also not right. So, and there's information missing, which you put out there. So it's not complete and it's hallucinating. And these are parts of the problems this is also what what legislation is about. That you understand the inherent risks with using it and make sure the customers are not going to be victimized because of this. And if you put it out there too fast without the safeguards or the safeguards in it,
The guardrails.
the guardrails, that's the word, thank you. You're putting your customer at risk. And that's the point we were making. So understand trained models based on your information. Perfect, let's go. It's expensive, it takes time, but it's effective. This is just too risky. Because now, if we see this, I start doubting every piece of information it gives me. How do I know it's right? And you need to be sure it's right.
Yeah, I mean, the trust thing you are talking here is so interesting because once trust is lost, how many people will actually continue using this, right?
As a company, you can't use it because let's say you would use this information to fill up the sales funnel in HubSpot for
Right.
your salespeople.
Right.
And the information turns out to be completely wrong. Then you're putting your sales force at work for information that's wrong. It's costing you sales because their attention is not going to companies they could sell to. You get frustrated salespeople and frustrated potential customers that are like, this is not for me. Well, they're not potential customers. But so you get a bad rep or a bad PR because of it. And so I don't think a company, and I guess they're still in alpha, but a company could safely use it and say, oh, let's go, let's do this. You need to embrace it and understanding how to use, how to prompt, et cetera, et cetera. So start using it, but, keep it away from your operation just yet. That would be this type of models.
I mean, the use cases they are going for here, right? Where they are going for some of those very probably hard to automate use cases, which I understand from the product perspective. They want to differentiate from ChatGPT. If they do whatever ChatGPT does, then people would just stick with ChatGPT and not come here, right? But also at the same time, I guess it increases quite a lot the challenge to make the use case, fit and bring useful information out.
I have correct. I have one last check we could do. Chatbot is like a separate company, right?
It's actually not a company. It's a product that
From HubSpot.
Dharmesh, the CTO of HubSpot, built, and I'm not even sure if they are incorporating that into HubSpot or not yet. Okay.
But let's try to see which technology they use. So company research technology used, try and see if we can get chatbot.
Oh, really? That's a good point.
And then we see if what kind of LLM or not. We don't know if it's going to answer us.
Chatspot. I think it's chatspot.com. Let me check if this works, okay?
Yeah.
Tech stack. But it's not giving me the tech stack, right? Let me just check if Chatspot is the right.
Their own. I think they put a guardrail there on their own.
No, I think it's because the Chatspot URL is wrong. It's Chatspot AI. My bad. It's my bad. Let's give it another try.
But the good news is chatbot.spot.com doesn't have a tech stack.
exactly. So it's apparently also right.
IO. You said AI.
Ah, okay. Sorry.
Oh, don't worry about it.
So yeah,
Nope, no answer.
okay. Not sure if that's good or not bad.
I would assume they put in a guardrail about
They
their
don't
own.
want to people know what type of tag is behind the scene. Yes, could
Yeah,
be.
but if you want to figure it out, you figure it out fast enough.
Yes.
Because if you use
Mhm.
this prompt in GPT, you copy the prompt and you get similar answers.
Have you tried? Maybe you can try it to see.
Now, I don't have it open right now, and usually there's a prompt and then another prompt and
Uh-huh.
then give it to me in a table, blah 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 blah,
Mm,
and
right.
they put some design over it, so
Right.
so there's something running in the background that makes sure that it looks nice,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they integrated it in conversational AI technology. That's what we're seeing here.
Yes. Yes.
You could ask the question, what conversational AI or chatbot platform is chatbot using, or are you
Let's
using?
say what LLM, right?
Are you using?
Technology are you using? I'm built using various technology frameworks, providing seamless experience. However, the specific low-level
Low
machine.
level.
That's funny.
Um, we
Okay.
just figured out any LLM would have figured out that an LLM would be right, the large language model. This is really
Yeah,
hilarious.
that's funny stuff.
But to try to correct it, say an LLM is a large language model. Please re-answer.
Large language. Re-answer your response. Okay, it refers to advanced AI models, vast amount of tags. These
Yeah, but
models have ability to understand.
we didn't ask for an explanation what an LLM is. We corrected it.
Yeah,
So basically, now the question again: what LLM technology are you using?
I think it does have some uh, context memory, but only when it's not with some of the specific use case they have, right? Because here it clearly is, I guess, getting back to the previous question or not,
Yeah, so that's why we answer the question again. Maybe the model now understands that an LLM is a large language model.
right?
If it comes
Maybe
up again with a low-level machine, then we
exactly.
then we
Then
know.
we know it's not using any memory.
Yep. Oh,
Oh, that's such a failure here.
we didn't see that one coming. But here's
No.
that. This is proof you cannot trust this. You can't use it because you can't trust the
Yes.
answer.
Yes. I think the lack of contextual memory here is reducing quite a lot the potential and the usefulness, because then every time you have to feed all the context back again to to the AI.
I have to admit, as much as I enjoy using these kind of applications, you would only be able to use it for writing stuff for you, as a
Right.
starter, yeah, from the
Mhm.
empty page to something to start writing with. The other functionality, I'd be scared to use it as a truth, because we've seen here that you cannot trust it. And maybe that's a good point to finalize our discussion, because um, actually this is a thing we discussed. There is a risk,
Mhm.
inherent risk. Um,
We're seeing in life here, right?
yeah, and it's not the first time, unfortunately. In another model, we saw the same thing where a chat PDF, it was supposed to answer on the PDF you upload. And we just uploaded a part of a book. And then we asked the question, could you give us the ending of the book? and it gave the perfect ending of the book, like it
Right.
actually was. No, it didn't imagine it. It picked it up from the internet or from whatever in the model, but it wasn't in the PDF. But it was supposed to answer the question on the PDF. We never asked it to complete it. So then we started to ask the other questions about the writer, if it had an affair with someone, and blah 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 blah. It was a Russian writer, so we asked if he had an affair with the Tsarina, if the model could tell us a bit more about that. And it started talking, no, based on his information, didn't have an affair with the Tsarina, blah 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 blah.
Interesting.
So we're like, yeah, but that's not in the book. So how can you even, you should have answered, sorry, this is not available in the information you gave me. Instead, it really tried hard to help me, which is a good thing, but with information that could have never been in the PDF. So
Yeah.
again, you cannot trust the answers, because how do I know it took it from the PDF or from the LLM, which I don't know is trustworthy? And so I think, yeah, and I think this is the inherent risk. And it's the same thing with fake news. If everybody believes it's true, that doesn't make it true.
Yes. I mean,
Or when
probably
it looks
also
good.
here the way how you do the prompt, how you ask the LLM makes a lot of difference, right? There is now a lot of different prompt techniques out there that some of them, it makes it for the system providing more truthful responses than you just say, like very single sentence, prompts like what we are doing here, which is the problem is like most users, most like consumers, they don't know those prompt techniques, and they will expect the system working with the most basic instructions, right?
And that's exactly it. You should test it the way a consumer uses it, and then you have the answer. You cannot use it as an expert user because there's too few around. Okay, let's stop sharing it. I think we've seen enough of chatbot.
Perfect.
Thank you. Um,
No affiliate with chatbot whatsoever, so this is purely for testing purposes. Okay.
Neither do I, and I have no affiliate with Landbot. It's also important. We do not sell. We just like to share knowledge and have the community grow and be better. Is there one last piece of advice you would want to give to companies that want to start with a chatbot? Forget about Landbot or any other platform. What is the most important thing they should do or not do?
Yeah, I think first thing is they need to understand what is the flow, the experience they want to give to the user. And maybe out of the gate, start with some more linear bots, not like jumping on the LLM, bandwagon too fast. Because with the linear bots, you can control all the steps, and you can easily know if the user is going to choose one option or the user is not choosing one option. That gives you more control about what the experience, the ideal experience should look like. Once you have that working more or less to some certain extent, then you can introduce, the large language models in specific points to complement and to, make the experience more flexible and more dynamic for the end users, right? And with that, I think you always have the kind of the linear flow as the back, how do you say,
Backbone.
the backbone, or like the
It's like a stable base on which you build the innovative stuff, but you always fall back on a stable process.
Exactly. Well, I was going for something like the fallback option when the large language model is failing, which
Yeah.
is something I think we didn't touch too much, but it's happening also, like a lot of timeout or a long, a latency and long response time, because those technologies, they are not yet, built for the mass use that we are giving it, right? So sometimes for GPT-4 models, like 10 out 4 out of 10 times it can it break, and it does not give you any response. So these type of things people need to take into account when they are designing their solution. So even if the system is not responding, right, you should still able to provide feedback or to provide the service to your customer.
I agree. Thank you. I think this is a good piece of advice. Jiaqi, thank you very much for being with us on the Friday afternoon. And well, keep us posted on the developments, especially once ChatGPT or OpenAI or other models are stable enough to mass use them. Come back and we'll discuss that, because it will give us new challenges, I'm pretty sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.